Alrighty guys, a very last update on the eco uh, road layout thing. Um, this one's going to be pretty quick. Let's look at the shape of it real quick. That's what I've got currently, and you can see on this I've got a few gestures left um, inside of the city grid, and I wanted to get rid of those completely in favor of more ecos. So I have 14 or 15 gestures down there to store, which is the real estate for two more ecos, and there's a road connection back here. These two buildings are obviously roadless, but the two ecos that I add will just go directly on the face of that road, store the gestures, and then plant these roadless 6x6. So to fine tune the road layout a little bit, just to get rid of all of the gestures throughout the city, I think I have like 4 or 5 of them scattered around, but for the most part was able to eliminate all of the gestures in favor of more ecos. So project complete. I would say that it's a really great system actually, extremely efficient. Percentage-wise is respectable, but in terms of packing in as many ecos into a city as you can, it's pretty incredible in that sense of efficiency. So here's the final layout that I ended up with. We're at 116.23% efficiency, 191 roads. So if you guys rewind back to the very beginning of this project, I was at 204 roads and 117.2% efficiency. So we've reduced our road consumption by 13 roads and lost 1% on the efficiency in the process. Pretty fair trade in my opinion, and I've also added 2 additional ecos, which I did this morning. Replaced the gestures that we had throughout the city, added the 2 extra ecos. So I'm up to 24 ecos, the road connection, plus the 1 eco roadless upgrade thing. So 25 ecos total, lost 1% on the efficiency, but also reduced road consumption by 13 squares in the process. So I added 2 buildings, essentially requiring 12 roads, but actually reduced the amount of roads that those buildings require. Pretty cool trade-off. Let's look at some rough numbers real quick, and we'll wrap this project up. But let's look at some final numbers and figure out what we've actually been able to accomplish in this little project. I'm down to 27 pieces of 1x1, and there's a few locations. This town hall connection is really tricky with the stair step pattern. It's really tricky to get both feeder roads coming off of the town hall, but still be able to capitalize on multiple connection points of the town hall. Because in a perfect world, if we're really going for efficiency, you want to be able to use at least 4 sides of the town hall, but in some cases you can actually kind of get 5 connections off the town hall, and that way you can connect large buildings on every single one of those road origins. So in a perfect world, we would like our town hall to be connected by at least 5 faces of the town hall. You can see with the stair step pattern, I'm really only able to create 3 origins, and I'm trying to capitalize on those connections around the town hall to get as many big buildings connected by the town hall as possible. But with the stair system layout, it's pretty difficult to do that. I'll probably keep playing with this little intersection here. But anyways, down to 27 pieces of 1x1, and you can see that most of them are actually around that town hall connections. So if there is inefficiency anywhere in the city, it's going to be around my town hall position. But throughout the city, the 1x1 use is pretty minimal. And that's on paper, again, remember, fake efficiency. On paper, the lack of 1x1s on these corners is reducing my efficiency, but if you don't want 1x1s, it doesn't really matter what you put into that corner because the shape of the road is determined by the buildings behind it. It's not necessarily what we fill the road space in between those, it's the building behind it that is determining the shape of the road. Down to 4 gestures compared to, I don't know, I think I had 40 or 50, something like that at the beginning of this little project, at the 117 percentage. And then I have 2 2x2s, and that's a road in, and then like a 2x2 GPG trinket, whatever. The small road stuff, very minimal. And that was the purpose of this project, right? We want to take all this small hardware out of the city. We want to get rid of the jesters, the extra trees, the 1x2s. I have no more 1x2s remaining. I got rid of all of those. Get rid of all that small hardware, consolidate our road group into the things that we actually want, which is large buildings like Eco and Yuki, and potentially lose some efficiency on the road side of things, but we're going to consolidate all of our road hardware into the smallest footprint possible. Even if it isn't efficient on paper, it's definitely small, and that's going to free up space for more roadless stuff to offset the lack of attack on the ecos. Make sense? So hypothetically, I have 24 road-connected ecos and 24 Yukis. Hypothetically, if we connected all of these on roads, we would need 144 connections for the ecos, plus 96 connections for the Yukis, a total of 240 connections. So we'll divide that by 2. Remember that from the previous video. We'll divide that by 2 to get the number of roads that we would actually consume. There's 120 roads that I would need just to connect the ecos and Yukis. And obviously there's Arctic Orangery, Blue Galaxy, Arc, some Saturn Great Buildings, Stellar Warship, some Eagle Mountains. There's other hardware in here, but we would need 120 squares just to connect ecos and Yukis alone. So the fact that I'm using 91 roads total, where 120 of them would theoretically be required just for the number of Eco and Yuki that I have, that means that there's 71 roads connecting everything else in the city. So extremely efficient. 116% efficiency is not the highest number that I've ever hit. I've gotten upwards of 140% in the past, but there's a lot of small hardware required in a layout that appears to be that efficient. So in terms of road consumption, 191 is actually probably the lowest number of roads that I've ever used on a layout, and my efficiency is down, but the buildings that I've packed into that space are much larger than previous versions of my city, where I was trying to organize 4x4s, 3x3s, things like that you can insulate a little bit better. So overall, I think it was a pretty successful project. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Probably won't post again for a while, but thanks for taking the time to watch, and hopefully it was helpful. God bless and take care.